Quasi here, and in this video I want to share with you how to master sales and really what I've learned as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, for over a year, just being on the phone myself around more than 6 to 12 hours a day, just speaking to prospective clients, selling and cutting people deals, and really just in this journey, what I've picked up and the 6 key principles that you've got to know to sell in any aspect of life. If you're an entrepreneur, this video is going to be very, very crucial for you. But even if you're just, someone who works a professional career and you have to attend interviews and just in presenting yourself, what I've done in this video is distilled the 6 core principles that you've got to learn, okay? To be successful in any single area of your life that requires you to get approval from another party, an agreement and the yes, if you will. So I want you to stick around to the very end of this video because I'm going to share with you my experience and give you concrete examples to prove it, as well as outline to you the 6 principles and how you can begin to apply it right now. Before I begin this video, I want to quickly announce a couple of spots have opened up for the free one-to-one consult with me and my team for the Reality Mastery program. Just wait around until the end of the video for the details on that. With that, let's get started. So today I want to talk about something different, which is mastering sales. And this is something I've never really talked about on the channel before. But lately, I've been getting a lot of requests of people wanting to know, how do you conduct sales as an entrepreneur? A lot of people have online businesses now, and they have to talk to prospective clients and sell every single day. Even, e-commerce entrepreneurs, you have to sell your product. You have to know how to word your product. So, what I've done here is distill the core principles that I've learned that make selling effortless, where it's no longer selling anymore. Even the term selling denotes, you having power and influence over someone else. So this is a great power that you've got to use responsibly, because if you don't, align to these higher principles, it's going to end up just, biting you back in the ass one day. Okay. So let's really get started with this video. Now, what I want to share with you is basically what really qualifies me to give this advice. And just as my personal experience, I've been selling, a coaching program since February 2019. That's what I do. I'm a coach. I help people really transform their lives and shift them at the identity level and just help people get into better states of being so that they can succeed in their businesses and their careers and in other creative endeavors in their lives. Okay. And since February 2019 up until now, until October, so I've recently hired a sales person just in August, and I had to train this person to perform at the level that I had as well. So it's one thing, training yourself and learning yourself. It's another thing training someone completely, okay? So that's how you know that what I'm going to share with you here is going to be completely legit. But I've done over 2,500 hours, just been on the phone with prospective clients, speaking, understanding their situation, understanding how I can help and if I can help and qualifying and all of that. And these are the lessons that I want to share with you today, right? Now, 2 big distinctions I want you to take away from this video is number 1, there's theory versus experience. Most salespeople, they read books and they learn all of this theory like, frame control. You should always be in control of the frame and all of this other bullshit. Right? And that starts to shape their behaviors on the calls, and then they become too standoffish and too confrontational and not really empathetic enough at understanding what the client really needs, right? So that's not effective at all. So, there's theory in everything that you read about sales and you actually going in and applying it, which is experience. So you need both, okay? Theory is basically learning how to ride the bike, like how it's supposed to be done, and that you have to pedal. And experience is when you go in and you understand how your muscles must work in coordination so that you can balance yourself on the bike. To give you a close example of this, how I relate this is recently I went roller skating with my wife, and it took me, 2 whole hours to learn from going to falling every 2 seconds to actually comfortably roller skating. So the first day it took me an hour to just, understand how to balance. Second day we came back and it took me another hour to really learn. But what I noticed was me looking at other people and good skaters and how they were doing it, which was the theory. But I needed to make it my own and make it personal to me, which was the experience in me going and trying and failing. So in sales, it doesn't matter how much theory you accumulate. You're always going to be overthinking, just like any single area of your life. You're always going to be overthinking, and it's never going to be effective once you actually go out and do it until you make the mistakes and learn from the pains and the pleasures, right? So understand that you need a bit of both. And what I like to do is 20% theory and 80% experience. So that's the balance that I've found to be the most effective for me. Because the more you just go out there and experience, the more you sort of make these conclusions on your own. You start to arrive with all of these conclusions, and then you start to read these books. Like, I've read a sales book maybe twice, two sales books in my whole life. It was mostly just experience and looking at other successful salespeople and how they conduct themselves, and my mentors, right? So I would say 20% theory, 80% experience is the sweet spot. Now, another thing most salespeople, beginner salespeople, really get carried away with is all of these gimmicks. Like, oh, you have to use this line, and you have to, use that line and that technique, and you have to ask them this question, which is all bullshit, right? Because you need to do none of that. And it's never really about the script and the magical script that you need to use, but it's the who behind this script. It's the person that's the place that this script and the words are coming from that really matters. So it's the intention, never the action itself. And so they should say gimmicks versus principles. And what I've found is that the principles in all areas of my life, not just sales, they've always been the most profound, because from principles you can derive techniques. So to give an example, one of the great principles of selling is non-neediness. And what's the technique of non-neediness? Not pushing too hard and knowing when to push, right? There's a right and wrong time for all of it. You have to know when to push, and you know when to pull, and really not just be salesy. So there's a right and wrong time for everything. That's just getting that internal calibration and knowing that. So with that, let's get to the 6 principles and get right to it. Okay, so principle number 1 of selling, what I've learned, is remember that you're always selling. Okay, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, you are always selling. What do I mean by that? Well, essentially, the moment your prospective client gets in touch with a piece of your content, the entryway to your funnel, if you will. So to give you an example, my funnel is like my YouTube channel. If someone comes in, they get an impression, they form an impression of me, right? That's the moment I sell. So I have to be tip-top every single time and authentic every single time, right? If someone saw a video that they didn't like and they're like, oh, this guy's energy is weird, they would just immediately get turned off, and they wouldn't go deeper into the funnel, right? So the great thing about that is how you align yourself, okay, how you conduct and carry yourself will attract the kind of clients that come in. This is why who you are is so important. Your identity and how you conduct yourself, how you present yourself is so important. This is why, people in the program, the Reality Mastery program, once we shift them at the identity level, they start to attract different quality of clients. So to give you an example, I used to attract unqualified clients into my program back in the day when I had more, of a beginner, non-convinced, sort of demeanor. My personality, my identity was in that way, and I attracted a certain kind of clientele. Now I attract a different kind of clientele based on who I am. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So this kind of personality and identity weeds out the wrong kinds of clients that I don't want to work with. So I've aligned myself correctly to the way that I want to be, which is the mission for every single entrepreneur, aligning their business, their brand, their messaging, who they are in the right way so that they attract the right kinds of clients. But it always starts with you, okay? If you don't become the correct person, your actions won't follow suit. So the important point is you're always selling at every single point, every single impression that you make, it sticks with the client. Number 2, which is what we see with a lot of beginner salespeople, even in the program, right, is don't ever try to convince someone to buy from you. You instead just show them proof. So don't try to convince, let them convince themselves. Which leads to one of the other points that I'll talk about is just, if you have an awesome product, you would never need to sell. You just have gold and people know that it's gold, and then they would come and get it, right? So don't ever try to convince someone, because the more you push hard to try and convince someone, what happens is they get turned off, okay? So the principles that I share with you afterwards is gonna relate to that. But for now, understand that, the more you try to convince someone, the more they get turned off. What you have to do is help them make their own conclusions. So a lot of the times I see people just trying to convince people to buy their product and their services without honesty. And this is why it's so easy to be a good salesman. Because all they do is, no, you buy this, just buy this, trust me, buy this, right? Instead of just being like, hey, look, honestly speaking, I do think we would be able to help. There's no genuineness and sincerity in their demeanor, right? So this is why I'm talking about principles versus techniques. When you begin off in sales, you have to go through all of those scripts and all of those gimmicks and techniques to really learn that they're not effective. Okay, you have to go through that whole stage. And once you get really, really evolved, you don't sell anymore because your self-worth, your sense of self-worth becomes very high. So the way to convince someone else naturally so that they become convinced is to first become convinced of your own offering yourself. So that's one of the hidden tools or hacks, if you will. Become convinced yourself. Become convinced that what you're offering is the shit. How do you do that? Look at client testimonials every single day. Show them client testimonials. See that people are crushing it. See that your shit works. That your shit is the shit. Because if it's not, if you don't believe it, how can you expect your clients to believe it? Right? If you don't have a good enough product, then you've got to go out there and make a good enough product first, right? And I suppose it is like feeding into each other. It's one step, two steps, right? It's iterative because you've got to go out there and get the clients to get them results. Maybe you can get a couple of free clients and maybe you can make free content and see all of the proof that people post. This is how you reprogram your subconscious to really see and have that conviction that what you're offering is actually good and believe in yourself and your service, right? I hope that makes sense. So don't try to convince, become convinced yourself. This is the law of state transference. When you become convinced, your client will rest comfortably in your conviction, okay? You will lead them. So that's number 2. Number 3, ditch the script and use a structure. Oh man, this was so important for me. Ditch script. Now, a lot of people use a sales script, right? And if you listen to yourself like a recording of your call, by the way, you should always be listening to recordings of your call and improving on that. Every single day, at least listen to one recording. Listen to a successful recording and a non-successful, a no and a yes outcome of your calls. And when you ditch the script, what you'll start to see is that your conversations flow much better, right? There's more intuition. What happens is the biggest mistake beginner salespeople make is they're always looking for the next thing to say. Okay, this is what I saw with my rep as well, the program coach that we hired. And when I was training him, he would, like in his calls, he would always be looking for the next thing to say, like, oh, what do I say next to close this deal? So what they're doing is they're optimizing for closing the deal instead of finding the problem for the client. If you, really think about it this way. If you are an expert, you will know what kind of questions to ask. If you know what kind of questions to ask, your clients will believe you're the expert because they know that only the expert would ask such pinpointed, detailed questions because they know what they're looking for. So when you went to an accountant, let's say, right? If you talk to an accountant, they'll ask you certain questions about your taxes, and that's how you know that he's the expert. Instead of someone who's trying to impersonate an accountant or a doctor, they'll ask questions all over the place and they'll be like, wait, is this person really a doctor? Why are they asking you stupid questions like that? Right? So the quality of the questions that you ask also presents you as the authority. So this relates back to you ditching the script. When you use a script, you become very, very robotic and monotonous. I had to learn this the hard way. I used the script for the first 4 or 5 months that I was doing sales, and I was like, oh shit, well, a lot of people were like, oh, you're so robotic on the calls, and they would get turned off. And I was like, all right, well, I need to ditch the script. I was very comfortable. It can get very, very comfortable holding onto a script, right? Because it's just it's comfortable, it works, why not just use it? So when I ditched the script, that's when my sales went through the roof. Instead of doing a script, use a structure. You understand at what point, what kind of questions, what sort of general questions you should ask and tailor it. So ditch the script, use a structure. That's key. This was the thing that helped me go from doing, $50K a month in sales to doing $100K a month in sales. That was the biggest difference. Ditch script, use structure. That's number 3. Number 4 is he who needs it the most will always be controlled. Okay, this is what I like to call your frame control. If you need the sale the most, your client will wave you by their credit card. You'll be like a little puppy on a credit card, right? So the principle of non-neediness. He who needs it the least will always control the frame. What do I mean by that? Really think about it this way. If you have a celebrity and a fan, right? The celebrity needs attention the least from the fan, but the fan needs attention more from the celebrity. So the fan will hook onto every single word the celebrity says. They will do every single favor that they ask for, right? So just like that, if you need the sale more than your client needs your service, then they're going to control the frame all the time. How you control the frame is you assume that they love your product and that's why they're on the call with you, or they're on your website or whatever it is. And then you come from that place of being and then take the actions necessary. Okay? So this was also key for me to understand, because what happens with beginner salespeople is they most of the time have a pipeline problem. They always look at a very small scale of customers and prospective client interviews and calls. And when they do that, they're like, oh shit, I only have 3 calls this month or 3 calls this week. And because of that, they get into a scarcity mindset. The way to enter an abundance mindset is to have an abundance of calls. Because then if this one doesn't go well, it's okay. I've got the next one. I've got the next one and the other one. Right? I'm going to share with you another strategy to help you overcome that. But that's basically principle number 4. Number 5. I mentioned this before, but hope you can see this. Product is priority. If I had a shitty product, it doesn't matter. I would never be able to sell. Product is the number 1 priority. Okay? If your product is terrible, it doesn't matter what kind of band-aids you put on it. You have to heal the wound from the source, which is the product itself. Are your customers happy? Are they getting results? You're never going to always have 100% happy and successful customers. That happens. But you should always try to get it as high as possible. You should always strive towards perfection. You should always be improving your product and understanding more and more and getting all this feedback from your prospective clients. Right? And it's crazy because sometimes we just have people come on the calls and say, yeah, I'm already sold. I saw your free content and I've gotten so much value out of that. I wonder what we can do with this paid program. Right? So, and that's why they just pay. They're like, yeah, I'm ready with my credit card. Just let me know how much it is and whatever. We have that almost every day. Why do we have that? Because our product is so great. Our clients are doing so well. They're crushing it. Even the free material that I share with you right now, it's probably more than any sort of paid program that you're going to get. Right? So understand that product is priority. Your content, your material, your interaction, the interaction your prospective clients have with your stuff is key. Okay? Fix the product, a lot of your problems will be solved. I don't think you'll be able to see this, but number 6, understand metrics. So I'm going to write metrics. You can see this? Yeah. Understand your metrics. What do I mean by that? This relates to non-neediness and also kind of ditching the script. Because what happens is when you understand your metrics, you're never going to be stressed out. So to give you an example, if I understand that my company needs to do 100 calls, a sales rep, a salesperson has to do 100 calls and make 50 offers, and out of those 50 offers, they will close 30 deals, which will lead to 120K or 100K a month. Right? If I understand that number, all I need to do is, instead of worrying if a week goes badly, I just look at the numbers. What am I on track to hit this month? I've already done 50 calls and it's week 2. Why am I panicking? I've done 50 calls and we've made this amount of offers and we've made this much in sales. Why am I panicking? There's no reason to panic, right? So once you understand your numbers, it gives you a blanket of security. You can rest on the numbers, okay? You let the numbers regulate your emotion as opposed to what happened today and what happened this week. So really successful business people always look at it in terms of months, quarters, and years instead of being short-sighted on weeks and days. If you had a day where you didn't close deals, no problem. If you had a week, no problem. This is why people, when sales reps get into this sales slump, it starts to reflect out their emotions, their neediness, starts to reflect out in their next call, right? They become more needy in their next call. And that's a problem. Your prospective clients can feel that neediness coming from you. And they're like, why does this person need the sales so much? They're probably trying to do something, gimmicky. They're probably trying to scam me. And then they get turned off. The more you push, the more they get turned off, right? So that's the importance of metrics. If you're someone who's a salesperson, if you're someone who's a business owner and your business makes sales, make sure you have a spreadsheet, a month-to-month spreadsheet showing you the detailed metrics, like how many calls did you do? How many offers did you make? How many sales did you make? Plot it on a spreadsheet, right? And plot a graph. Look at the numbers and look at projected numbers as well. If you were to project it at this rate, what would it look like by the end of the month? Okay? And with that, I conclude this video. Thank you so much for watching. Let's do a quick recap of what we talked about. This was very important stuff. This is literally my life's work. And after closing over $1 million in sales, just myself alone, over the past like 17, even more than $1 million, I think, over 17 months, 100 grand every single month, maybe $1.5 million. This is what I've really learned, and I've tried to distill it into 6 key principles that will be very valuable for you. And the first thing I want you to know is the difference between theory and experience, okay? Most people get so hooked onto theory. They look at book after book, Grant Cardone video after Grant Cardone video, and they never really apply this and make it an experiential reality. I can talk to you about roller skating all I want, but unless I've done it myself, some things you just can't describe, because it's like, it gets rooted in your unconscious. It's just muscle memory. You just move like this. That's all I could show you. And the next thing is understanding techniques versus principles. Always understand the deeper principles, the thing that doesn't change. If you look at more and more things that don't change, you're going to be successful in any area of your life. I'll give you an example of what this road looks like. If I had let's say a little pendulum, right, that moves side to side, this part is the most changing because it has an arc, like the arc is greater. And this point is the least changing because that's the source. And within this, as you go higher and higher to the source, it changes less and less. That's how life is. The closer you get to the source, the less changing they are. Just like the principles I described to you, right? They are closer and closer to the source. So they don't really change over time. They can be applied in any single area, right? But also they become much more subtle as you go on. Now let's talk about the 6 principles. Number 1, understand that you're always selling. Every single piece of material that comes from you is an impression from you, right? Number 2, don't ever try to convince someone. Just become convinced yourself and it will transfer out. That's all you need to do. If you're convinced, let's say a client comes to you with a problem and you're like, wait, I've helped clients like this with problems before. Then your demeanor will change because you're like, well, I know how to help you. I'm already ready to make you an offer. Let's do it. Right? Imagine just going on a call with someone being like, hey, I need help with this. They're like, yeah, I know how to help you. We've helped people like this. And you can tell by their energy that they're not faking it. It's real, right? That's something you work up towards as you work with more and more clients, as you become more and more diligent. Number 3, ditch the script. Use structure instead. Scripts make you robotic. Structures make you human. Number 4, non-neediness. The more someone needs something, the more they are susceptible to being controlled. Number 5, understand your product is the number 1 thing. Like none of this shit even matters. None of your advertising, none of that even matters if you don't have a good product. If you have an amazing product, you wouldn't even need to market it. Like, think about Slack or Amazon. Have you ever seen an ad for Amazon? You've seen products in Amazon being advertised, but Amazon itself, have you ever seen them being advertised? No, right? And finally, understand metrics. If you understand your metrics, nothing will worry you, okay? Because now your emotions are governed by the numbers as opposed to, oh no, today I didn't close any deals, right? And with that, I conclude this video. Thank you so much for watching. Sincerely hope this was helpful. Guys, this was a different kind of video, and leave me a comment below what you thought of this, if this was actually helpful to you, if you have any questions about it, if you want to see me make more videos like this, and I'll answer there. I'll maybe make a follow-up to it if it's helpful. And also, as I mentioned before, the free one-to-one consult with me, my team for the Reality Mastery Program, is now open. Just click on the link in the description below to sign up, and let's see if we're actually able to help. Who we work with are typically entrepreneurs who want to take their businesses to the next level, but in a more counterintuitive way. They have all of the techniques, tactics, and strategies, but what they're missing is the level 1, the foundations. Who they are is the problem. They keep running into the same internal battle every single day. They keep doubting themselves. They have imposter syndrome. They keep procrastinating. If that sounds like you, just click on the link in the description below to sign up, fill up a short survey, and schedule a call with us. And I'll see you there. Also, the free Facebook group is open for you to take advantage of. The link for that is also in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time. Peace.